finding out about why we came here into creation this time, to hopefully wake up all the way to what life's all about. And we're very fortunate to have some real guides and the education that we're being given. Since it's all about right here and now, the situation of the way life is, and how to share this new presentation with others, and that seem to be not really wanting to find out anything other than what they think they know as reality. It just seems like the way the world is right now, with the possibility of it not lasting very much longer, because it might seem bad with the chemtrails and the poisoned ocean and water and food and things too, but we're also dealing with things that are temporary. Even our very sun could blow up, have a supernova. So it seems like that's what's so important about the now, is that to be able to be sharing and earn our way out of this psych realm stuff, this temporary illusionary experience that we're all having to go through to learn what isn't real. So we'll have a comparison, I guess, to the real universes that are real, where we don't have this psych stuff to experience anymore. It just seems like that's such a hard thing to comprehend, not having eyes and ears and a nose and a tongue and touch, to be experiencing what life is. So it's very interesting to try to think that how it would be to be without these senses that we use here in this psych realm stuff. And what would be real important right now to be saying to anybody that would be listening, that the real guides have brought to hear some words that they can decide for themselves if it's something that is important right now in their life. Because out of all the people that have already been looking at the information, the references on this tech stuff, the internet or whatever it is all over the world, we can see that it doesn't seem like very many out of the billions is paying any attention to all the efforts that are being given to share something wonderful and remind others why they came here into this experience. Yeah, go ahead, Val, if you're there and done.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
You mentioned creation and the five senses, and there's a something I wanted to read that Dwayne wrote that relates to that, and also my own experience with that is that, and I'm sure others have had this on the real side. It's sometimes you have these experiences that are so real, they're more real than, and you wake up and this doesn't seem as real as what you were just in. So, and you didn't necessarily have the senses. I mean, in a way you did, but in a way they were almost overshadowed by the experience and how real it was. So, just an observation. And here I'll read from Dwayne. Creation is a simulator for all of us to start our wake up to the whole of life. And after millions of lifetimes, you are finally ready to have the real opportunity to become more aware and totally awake with the true reality life is, the all is. In creation, there are the invented ideas of gods, saviors, and angels that do appear to exist, and of course they do, but they are restricted to cause and effect creation only and do not know about the real universes where there is no restrictions. You are the one who is always deciding your life and nobody else, no matter what you have been told or taught. If you do not decide your life, then you have given your free will away for someone else to decide, and you will stay trapped. And tapline, by the good sounding stories and ideas you have been raised with. With the real guides, you will have real experiences that give you your own answers directly. Sing the new you and find out for yourself. And I was just talking to Dwayne just like a minute ago, and we're talking about the nowness. You know, when we say the is your life is new now all the time. Well, you can be new, and we're saying, you know, go on the real side, like Eckhart Tolle, who advocates the now. You can still be now and not recognize the isness. So it's the recognition really that's the factor here. Life is new now all the time, but it's in the recognition of it being new now. I guess you could say that. You know, you could say that in a certain way. So again, it's an isness. Life is always on. It's for us to decide how we're going to see it, because each one of us sees it in a different way. And I know some of you have been transcribing the Skypes. Kevin, you've been doing it for a while now, and I think, I don't know, maybe Edward or somebody, some of the newer people here have taken that on too. So if anybody's doing that, could you kind of share about that, how that's going, and what you've been doing? And I'm talking about the old Skypes that have been recorded, and then you transcribe them, and then write them up and post them on Facebook or store them someplace and have them for other people. Edward, are you doing that?
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I've been working on that. It's been a little slow for me, but I have listened to a couple of the talks, just listening to them all the way, and they've really been beneficial for me.
Maybe Kevin can share how he does it and how it works for him, and so it help you and others.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, when I first started doing it, I mean, I had no technical capability whatsoever. I was like completely computer illiterate. So basically, if I can do it, anybody can. All I use is the editing tool that I use is one called Filmora, which I would say is probably the most simplest editing software that you can get. I mean, it's advertised as being that even your grandmother can use it apparently, and even with that, it took me a while to get to grips to it. But it is a very self-explanatory and easy to grasp tool, and that's effectively all you really need to edit a Skype. I mean, you just take the base recording. You may have to convert it into a form that's compatible with Filmora. And for that, I use, let me scroll this over. I use a switch sound file converter, and that will convert it into the correct form. And then you take it from your file into your Filmora, and you put it in a timeline. And then then all I do is I add an intro sequence, a final sequence, usually with a bit of information and a little bit of music on either end, and then I put all images in the middle. For the images, I get them off various sites, one of which is Video Blocks, but to be honest, you can just as easily use the free images that are available on the internet, and obviously there's a massive storehouse of images that Ava and has created and put on her site that you can easily use as well. And then it's just a case of putting them on YouTube, and that's it really. And then as time has gone by, I've sort of created other videos and things, and I've tried to be a bit inventive, and I've got some other software as well. That, yeah, as you might have noticed, that funny cat that occasionally pops on the Facebook and starts talking about some of the old Skypes that Dwayne did as well. And well, that's about it really. I don't know if that helps, but
Yeah, the cat is really cool. Everybody enjoys that. They get a kick out of that. Do you mind leaving the information in the chat here, the program you used, or any kind of information people can be helpful for?
yeah, I can do that. That's fine.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin.
And this is about contributing. You know, this is just one way, and there's so many ways people can contribute, which Dwayne talks about that becoming a way to become more aware. It's an easy way to become more aware because you're all along. You know you're seeing how other people see it by doing these kinds of things. It helps you to see how others see it, and then form it in a way that they can more readily understand it and recognize what we're doing. It takes a little bit of seeing both sides, or seeing many sides. But the contribution aspect is really important because you can sing the new you can have your real side experiences, and you can read the books, but the contributions are really beneficial. Anyway, there is a link to the new articles here, which he writes. He wrote, he's been writing, every day he writes at least 1, 2, sometimes 3 even a day. His last one was about protesters, which I can share and find it. Protesting. By Dwayne the Great Writer. Protesting is another form of agreement to those who created the systems that people protest about, as in prisons. At times, the prisoners protest about their prison conditions, and many times riot to where abusive force takes over to contain them. This is what the world controllers look forward to when people protest about something the agreed upon establishment has created and is doing. Those who invented the systems of politics, religion, spiritual, education, science, and other things know the psychology of the unaware people very well from those they purposely keep contained into agreement of continued lifetimes of servitude. Of course, the protesters are not really aware of this because they have been raised and indoctrinated to obey the systems they have been with for lifetimes that keep people unaware here. The cleverly created Constitution by the old banksters states that Congress, can you trust them, shall make no law respecting and so on. To petitioning the government for a redress of grievances. Oh goody. What this means is everyone who wants to gets to take time off from their 9-to-5 boring jobs and protest their polluting jailers for better slavery working conditions. Have you ever heard two birds talking and saying, "You have rights"? By the very fact that the idea of rights has been created and agreed to in the context it has by those who control others, to the unaware agreeing public, this actually means you do not have any rights unless your controllers agree and say that you do. So you can protest all you want, and them, your controllers, will enjoy the show and possibly take time to listen, but there are no guarantees. But them will tell you that them are looking into it. According to the controlling people who gave you the right to have your so-called rights, the right to redress your grievances, supposedly, provides the protesters to receive a fair settlement while still in bondage on this planet to others, that also supposedly includes compensation for misrepresentation, which is the way the governments do business, of unsatisfactory services, which is more than evident. By protesting your jailers, you are really saying that I have the right to stay a slave with the controlling system that I keep agreeing to. As people go through the process of becoming educated and indoctrinated according to those who control them, they have collected a lot of so-called knowledge about where they are at here, but they have not become more aware with their real awareness to see past the old systems and what is really taking place with their invented lifestyle. There is a better way with us, universal super seers, and that is to become more aware and self-sufficient and free yourself from authorities and restrictions into the real universes of real freedom now. Okay. Any comments on that? That's kind of a lot where we've been. I grew up in the 60s when there was a lot of protests with the Vietnam War and civil rights, Black Power. I mean, there's a lot of that. So people were, by doing that, they're playing right into the hands of the controllers. You know, they're agreeing to be basically enslaved. They're depending on their enslavers to do something instead of creating their own position like we're doing here with the self-sufficient communities and just basically creating our own position. Because they have, you know, they're going to do what they do, the controllers, but we can do what we do, and we're going to be doing it a lot better, it's going to be for a benefit for everybody, whereas they are just doing it for themselves and to control and manipulate people. So, any comments on that? Or
Yeah, I have a comment. It's like if people would become more aware, and spend more time with reading the new books and listening to the Skypes and the Blog Talk Radio shows and the Facebook Lives, instead of, if they spent the same amount of time with all their complaining about the situation and protesting and trying to find out what life's all about, and put the effort into paying attention what's being offered about through the books, the new books and stuff, how they can earn their way out of this psych realm where they don't have to complain. No more protesting in the real universes.
yeah, this control is so subtle. I was on my way back to Southern California today from Northern California, and I stopped at a rest stop, and there was a breakdown. This young black man, his car broke down. He had bought it only for $750, so it wasn't going to go too far, but he was on his way from Stockton to San Diego, and it broke down. So I gave him a lift to Long Beach, to the bus station. He's basically a homeless, a former veteran, Navy veteran. And he was talking, he's just an example of how people are controlled and how they depend on the system. And he's still waiting for his veterans, pension, whatever you call it. He's been out of the service now for quite a while, and he still hasn't gotten any compensation. He knows somebody's been working on it for like 40 years, he said. Maybe that's a Vietnam vet that hasn't gotten any compensation. And they're working through lawyers, they're working it through the system. And you do that, but, at the same time, you see that the system is not there for your benefit. So you do it as much as makes sense. But in the meantime, here we have the opportunity to create our own position and community, self-sufficient community. And if you don't, for those people knew that we're pointing to that with we're pointing to these communities with the New School, Homeschool, and the Nations United Universal University. Those will be like ways people can get educated and guided to establishing their own communities, basically, wherever they are. And communities that, the cars run on water, or even other things, spaceships or flying saucers, whatever, but the idea is just to get, you don't have to depend on the system anymore or agree to it. We can slowly ease our way out of the agreement and into our own position, and be a real benefit for people and the planet and the environment. So this guy, he did know a lot. He actually knew, he suspected God was a fake, which is kind of interesting. He said, there's some things about, he said he was raised Christian, and there's questions that came up about God that didn't make sense to him. And he actually thought that God may have been the devil in disguise. And yeah, we referred to Devil's Advocate, the movie with Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino, where you know, he does play both sides, the devil and God, and we see that with the cow, Grog. So he suspected that, you know, he knew, he talked about Trump being a distraction, you know, the buffoonery that Trump does, and how there's probably something else going on while people are paying attention to him, you know, that we're not aware of, that's probably a lot more important. So he knew a lot of things, and I think there's a lot of people out there like that, and they just need to get a hold of us so that they have the opportunity to actually, make some, have some more options. Because right now they don't have any options. You know, they don't know where to go, what to do with the information they do get, if they do get any at all. So that's where we come in, and from there they can decide to get out of here, get out of the matrix, so to speak, decide to do something better for themselves.